Hello everybody, my name is Marlo and welcome back to TekTopia. We are starting today's episode off in my storage room surrounded by a large amount of shulker boxes. Basically, I have gone ahead and moved over all of my items I'm currently using in this world, most of them from Arduino, packaged them away in shulker boxes and brought them on over here to our new city project. And I've also gone ahead and labeled all of the chests here, as you can see, with how I'm going to sort and store all of my items. That is honestly the most time consuming part, I would say, but I do have something else to do that's going to take me a long while, which, as you may have guessed, is to sift through all of the items here in the shulker boxes and put them in their individual labeled chests, which is fine for ones like this, which are all fairly organized, most of them consisting of the same item. But every now and again, you get a shulker box like this, or even this one over here. And there's a few of them hidden away in this formation of shulker boxes that we have here. So the ones that are mostly green concrete powder, for example, that's gonna take no time at all. But when I gotta go through this just huge combination of mess of items, that is what takes the time. So this is definitely a super fun way to start off the episode. Oh, there we go. 45 minutes later, we're all cleared up in here. I finally feel moved in. So everything is inside its designated chest. I did have to make a couple of extra ones along here, such as the andesite, granite, and diorite. Had too much to put it all inside a single chest. And there's a couple here, like the gravel and the sand, where it's got some shulker boxes just as some bulk storage, because I obviously have far too many of those items for a single double chest here. But yeah, everything is moved away, and here are the remaining shulker boxes left over, as obviously, of course, a lot of them are still inside the chest here, but that's a lot of shulker boxes. I will most certainly make use out of them. They are always very helpful, aren't they? But yeah, there we go. Good job done, out the way with right at the start of the episode. I hope you guys like watching that very satisfying time lapse. We are actually gonna go make another one of them right now. Pretty much, I would like to lay out the rest of our city plan. We already have 5 of the platforms built up, but we have 16 remaining, and I would like to outline them all right now, and just basically make sure that everything fits inside the village border, marked by the town hall icon here, which it does in my test world, so I would be really shocked and surprised if something was wrong in this world. Really hoping it isn't, otherwise we're gonna have to have like some sort of complete redo of the plan of the city, but I think we should be good. If we actually just take a quick flyout on here, you can see the village border is quite a ways off from the central building, so we got quite a lot of room to work with here. It does get close, I will warn you now, it's like a couple of blocks at one of the platforms, but everything does actually fit in here. Again, in theory, it fits inside. Let's hope it does. But anyway, I hope you guys are going to enjoy this time lapse. I really think you will. It's going to be a super satisfying one. Oh, buddy, that was nice to watch. Very satisfying indeed, seeing all of these shapes, the circles and the long rectangles coming into formation here, being built one at a time. I had a pretty smooth sailing time doing this. The only difficulties I found was with these corner circles here just next to all of the pillars. Basically, I must have expanded these platform pathways out by a couple of extra blocks, and obviously when you're building with circles, all it takes is a couple of blocks to completely throw the whole thing out of shape. So I kind of had to make up these circles and pathways on the fly, but I think it all turned out pretty well. Hopefully it is laid out correctly and is completely symmetrical, and if it's not, then just don't tell me. I don't want to know if all of this isn't actually symmetrical. That would crush my heart. But just kidding. If some of you eagle-eye viewers do actually notice something is off, please let me know down in the comments. Unfortunately, I do have some bad news when it comes to the village border. it doesn't actually all fit in. Let me show you over here. Over on this side, just beyond our animal pens to be, they're currently lacking some animals. The village border gets very, very close in a second, and as you can see, this row of blocks doesn't actually make it into the village itself, which doesn't actually matter at all, because the villagers aren't meant to be walking along here, so whatever is going to be going on this platform will be obviously well within the village border. So yeah, we basically fit everything in with the exception of this line of blocks. So it's actually on one of these platforms where we're going to be doing the bulk of today's work, which, as you would have seen in the title and the thumbnail, is going to be some villager apartments. I've got a big old building designed in my test world ready to go that's going to hold a lot of villagers. I cannot remember the exact number off the top of my head. I'll have to let you know afterwards, but it's over 100. Let me tell you that. There are a lot of villagers that are going to fit inside of this thing. So yeah, I think we are going to get started on this right after I get some resources together. I've just realized all of these blocks we've just placed down are actually spawnable for mobs, which is fine at the moment because there's currently no villagers, but before we do actually get some, I'm going to have to find a way to either light this up or cover it up. I'm thinking maybe what we do is light up the platforms here, and we can always just line this with the quartz like we're going to do eventually. But for right now, I'm just going to sleep the night away and avoid the mobs that way. I need to kill some squids because I've just realized I need some light grey dye to make some glass panes, but it's occurred to me now, I have to get a lot of grey for this build, or this entire city I should say, which means I'm going to have to kill so many squid, which honestly is not my favourite task in this game, believe it or not. So I may have gone a little bit overboard with the amount of resources I need here, but basically these 5 are filled with white concrete powder, or white concrete I should say. I've already done the very, very, very time-consuming task of converting it all, which to be honest isn't too bad at all really, because I can just AFK and do it in my concrete converter. But all of these are filled with cyan. We then have some cyan terracotta, we then have our light blue, and then our grey concrete, and then lastly here is our glass, as well as some quartz. And there's probably some other resources that I'll be using, but I can just drop back in here and get it when needs be. And now we are ready to build these apartments. $128. That is the number of villagers that we can fit inside of this building here. And is that too many? I don't know just yet. I guess only time will tell, but we can always shorten the amount down. So basically, each of these cyan terracotta windows that you can see on this building is going to be an individual home for some villagers. And obviously this is replicated on the back as well. So in total, there's actually going to be 44 villager homes inside of this single building. Pretty crazy, right? Definitely my biggest villager home yet, although this isn't really technically a home, it's more so apartment flats, as I said. So yeah, what we're going to be doing, and it may actually be easier just to step inside here. Pretty dark, so let's watch out for mobs. But yeah, as I said, so ignoring these ones on the side, all of these windows are going to be individual rooms for our villagers. And the blue concrete here is going to be where we have our staircases leading up to each individual floor. But basically, basically, these on the edge here with the 2 windows here is going to be for 2-person homes, and then the larger ones in the center here, with the exception of these 2 at the bottom, are going to be for 4-person homes. So what we can do, if it does get a little bit crazy in here and a bit too packed and cramped, we can shorten these down to just 2-person homes, which will greatly reduce the amount of villagers actually coming in and out of this building. But I don't think it should be a problem with how I've done the interior. I think I figured out a way to get around the overcrowdedness fairly well. But we're not going to be doing the interior just yet. We'll start it very soon, but I thought I should maybe talk to you guys about the actual building itself here, and I'm just looking at it from this angle, this very steep angle, and it looks just magnificent, doesn't it? It's really quite massive. It kind of makes the other 3 platforms, well, at least 2 of them, potentially pointless, because the rectangle platforms were where we were going to do all of the villager homes, and I set out a rough goal to have 250 villagers inside of this city, or citizens, I guess I should probably start calling them, and if we're fitting in, you know, over half or around about there in this single one, then we may only need to do another one the opposite side, a similar size. So I guess we got 2 extra platforms to possibly work with, but this one is gonna, you know, sort us out for quite some time. So I don't really want to, you know, talk to you guys too much about the just general shape of the building. That's fairly obvious. I mean, it's just a bunch of symmetrical shapes, right? It's meant to look like apartment flats. You can easily tell where all of the apartments are, and generally I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I do quite like it. But what I want to talk to you guys about is actually what's going on the rooftops up here, because that is where it gets a bit more interesting. We actually have 3 separate things going on here with our multi-leveled system, shall we say. So I guess we can start off at the top here, and you can probably tell what's going on here, at least I hope so. But these daylight detectors are actually just meant to be solar panels, an energy source for our apartments here. And I know maybe if this was in real life, just 8 solar arrays like this wouldn't maybe be enough to supply power to 128 citizens, but we're going to pretend these are super duper powerful. And then we have these iron trap doors around the side here, mainly just to cover up the concrete, but these were actually super expensive. I used up like the rest of my iron supplies crafting all of them. Each one of these take a single iron ingot, or 4 iron ingots I should say, so it's pretty pricey. But I did want to cover it up, and I thought maybe this could possibly be some sort of ventilation system for the entire apartments, how the air gets in and out of the building. Just a fun little thing we can maybe pretend the iron bars are. And then we have these things on the side which are literally just observers with hoppers on top, but we had this open space here, and instead of just extending out the solar panels, I thought we could maybe pretend these are either generators or just power storage. Maybe excess power that these solar panels makes go into whatever this thing is right here. I don't know, I just think it looks kind of cool, especially with the arrows and all of the texture around the observer. I do quite like it. The next layer down here is actually just a skylight. I thought since this is right above our staircase, or where it's going to be going, we should maybe have some natural light beaming down into it. So yeah, that's what's going on here with this level. And by the way, I should say all of the end rods around, they're simply just to light up the build. I put some carpet on front of them. Maybe we could pretend this is some sort of satellite or something. I don't know, just use your imagination, I guess. But yeah, I'm trying to stop mob spawning entirely throughout the whole of this city, really. I still do have something to figure out if I actually just hop down and show you here. On all of these window ledges, mobs can spawn. There's going to be a bit of light coming through from the apartments, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. So what we may have to do is just line this with some carpet or something else like that. But yeah, anyway, back up to the roof. And the final layer here, as you may have guessed, is a rooftop garden. Now, there isn't a whole lot of room to work with here, obviously. So we basically just got some grass and greenery and some flowers to add a little bit of color. But I do quite like how it looks. And rooftop gardens always are a pretty cool thing to add to a skyscraper build, and this will obviously lead directly into the staircase when we eventually get them built. and we will get started with that very soon, I promise. I just have one quick thing I would like to show you, and it's actually something super duper cool once again. So if you guys can remember, a couple of episodes ago I showed you some concept artwork done by Junkyard Dog of some of our citizens here in this city, and he has actually very kindly done 2 more for us. So I've already shown you the architect, tradesman, merchant and nitwit, but this time we have the lumberjack and the farmer, and this is them. They look so cool. Once again, I absolutely love the art style. They look fantastic. The lumberjack is based off of the tree fish. Hopefully that's fairly obvious as to why that one was picked. And the farmer is based off of the tuna fish. And yeah, they just look awesome. It is exactly how I would imagine them. Their clothes, their style, just everything is absolutely perfect. So once again, dude, thank you so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it. Everyone loves seeing them. I'm sure they do. So yeah, guys, thank Junkyard Dog down in the comments, and you can also thank him by once again going over to his Instagram and giving him a follow. Go check out some of his artwork. He is very talented and super kind for doing all of this. Now, I don't know whether there's going to be time today to actually get some farmers and lumberjacks. That was my original plan, but I'm quickly running out of time here, and there's still a lot of work to be done. And by the way, here are the new villager textures that we're now using for this city. This is the male, what are you called again? I've forgotten your profession. Nomad, that's the one. And here is the merchant, sort of like a updated wandering trader texture. So yeah, there's a quick glimpse of what the new villagers look like now. But yeah, what we now need to do is actually head inside here and start work on the interior. And it's a mighty task, let me tell you. The exterior took me a long time to build, but I think the interior is going to take even longer. And I think the first thing we should maybe do is sort of set up a grid formation, just so I can get everything spaced out and measured, and just sort of like lay out the rooms before we go ahead and fill all of the walls and the ceilings and the floors in with various concretes and terracottas. Well, this is certainly strange to look at, but believe you me, it does help tremendously in seeing where all of the rooms are going to go. So basically, you know, we got this grid formation. You can kind of tell where all of the individual apartments are actually going to be located. So we're almost ready to start on the apartments themselves. I'm thinking what I'm going to do before that, just so I know I've done all of this right, is get all of my staircases in. So there's going to be 4 in total. Obviously, each quarter of the build is going to have their own staircase going up to the apartments on either side. And yeah, I just want to make sure I've done all of this right before I do any more work, because obviously if they can't go up the staircase, well, then they can't get in their apartments and all of it becomes pointless. Good news, the staircases have been built and they've turned out to be as expected. Everything is going to plan so far, which is all good. That means I'm building it right. So basically we have 4 staircases here, as I said, 1 for each quarter of the build, and let's just take a step up one of them. They're all identical, that's probably fairly obvious, but the staircases here was what was actually the most difficult part about planning this interior. It was super important that I laid these out in a certain way. Basically, there were some requirements that I had to kind of force upon this staircase, otherwise it just wasn't going to function. I had to make it go up to each individual room, obviously, otherwise they're not going to be able to reach the door. That was requirement number 1. Requirement number 2 was so that it was wide enough so that they wouldn't knock each other off, and obviously there will be walls here when we get the actual apartments built, so you know they're not going to be able to fall off the side here, which is why it takes up the whole of this space. And then the requirement number 3 was getting up to the next level in a fairly efficient way that's going to cause as few problems as possible, which is what we have here. So it gets a little bit narrow to actually step up to the next level, and the only thing I can imagine going wrong here is if a villager is coming down and one is coming up, they might bump them and fall back down into this spot, but then they can just try again. This is the only thing that concerns me, and I'm really hoping it isn't an issue, and it probably shouldn't be, because TekTopia, the homes are only really used at nighttime, right? Unless you're a cleric, then you're kind of in and out depending on your sleep schedule. So they really should be all in a continuous flow, either going all up or going all down. And obviously, as you go up the floors, there's going to be less and less villagers because they'll all be going into their individual apartments. So I think it should be okay. Time will tell. If it does happen to be a problem down the line, then I guess we'll cross that bridge when we have to. But for right now, the staircases are up, installed, and are functioning. Well, they function for me. I think they're going to function for the villagers too. And the only other thing I will mention is we have the end rods here for lighting, and you may think that I should possibly put a sea lantern in between them like I've done over here for this staircase. It looks great from the inside, but if I just hop out the the outside slash exterior, you can see through this window, doesn't really look great. I wouldn't mind it as much if they were symmetrical and sort of like even, you know, dead center on all of the windows here, but they're not, and they just kind of look a little bit weird. So we're just going with the end rods, not the sea lanterns as well. Okay, we are now ready to start on the next step, which is basically going to be building the apartments. Not furnishing them, just simply lining the walls and the floors and the ceilings and just kind of getting the basic structure of them all built up. And yeah, then we can start with adding in all of the beds and the chairs and that sort of thing. Okay, I'm currently in the middle of building all of the walls, as you can see, but I just want to show you the nitwits, for whatever reason, or nomads I should say, for whatever reason they just spawned at the top of the tower here, so that's strange, but you kind of got a glimpse of them actually using the staircase. They're stuck to their very rigid pathfinding, and they kind of hug the wall here and then turn around. They're not trying to like cut the corner here, which is what I was a bit worried about. So as long as we're all going the same direction, I think we're actually going to be going good. Anyway, back to placing a bunch of blocks. Currently, my left hand is experiencing some pins and needles. It's just finished being completely numb from placing in all of our concrete here. So not only have I done all of the floors and the ceilings and the walls of our apartments, but I also went ahead and finished the platform here, expanded it downwards like we're doing for the other ones here, and also added in our pillars as supports. That is a surprising amount of concrete. It's way more than you would think. I'm not sure on the number, but it takes a while to do. And I've also added in the sea lanterns here along the platform just to stop mob spawning, so we don't have any sevens, which is nice. The only thing I have to do in regards to stopping mob spawning is line this white concrete with carpet, but I'll do that eventually. I don't really have the wall supplies currently. So the inside here, it's awfully white. It almost looks like a sterile laboratory with how much we actually have, but I tried adding in some patterns using some different concrete, like I tried getting some grey in the walls here, but because of the staircase and how all of this works, it was just way too difficult to do. So we've just gone with white for most of the walls, in fact all of them, not counting the exterior walls here. Obviously they're a little bit different. So this is what the smaller rooms look like, and then if we just go up a level, this is what the larger rooms look like. And then there are two different ones. We have, if I could just get down, the ones at the bottom here, which are slightly smaller just because obviously we need this pathway to actually access the staircase. And then if we go all the way up to the top level here, we have the slightly larger rooms, I think. They probably are just a little bit bigger. Haven't quite figured out what to do with the ceiling just yet. I'm thinking I might just cover it up with some quartz slabs would be the easiest thing, but this wall's a little bit weird from the funny looking windows we have out the front, and that's a really cool view. It's currently raining right now, which is why we kind of got this misty sunset, but that's kind of awesome to look out on. I've also, as you may have seen whilst we climbed the staircase here, added in sea lanterns because it's kind of like in the walls here, so I could change out that block and replaced it instead of the end rods, which I definitely prefer. So now we are ready to furnish all 44 of these apartments. But the question I want to ask myself is, how do you go about making 128 beds? Well, it's definitely not like that. Remind me again, why exactly do beds not stack? It seems incredibly outdated that they don't. I never want to place another painting again. Doing all of the interiors here was fine for the most part, except for the paintings. It was just such a pain. They took so long. But yeah, as you can see, these are all basically the same in every single room, if not identical. Obviously, the paintings differ a little bit, but the beds are mostly in the same place, and they got a little table and chairs, with every single one having a blue orchid. I was not up for doing flower variation here. This is pretty tedious, but yeah, I got it done in the end. All of our 44 apartment buildings are now furnished and complete, meaning with the exception of one final thing, which is going to have to wait until next episode, which is the adding in the white carpet on the edges of the building here, because I think if I fly around this side, yeah, you can see mobs are spawning. So I definitely need to do something about it, but I am just out of time for today. So that, everybody, is where we're gonna have to say goodbye for today's episode. As you can see, we can actually have a quick glimpse in all of the windows here as we fly around, just to prove to you all I have actually decorated every single one, which means we can now get up to 128 villagers before we even need to think about building another home in this city, which is kind of awesome because I always dread the homes a little bit because they're sort of the same thing and I never really know what to do with them, and I've never done anything quite like this before in the series. So yeah, I've certainly enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys have too. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.